he's coming.
The dead are already here.
Stand your ground!
The Night King made them all. They follow his command. If he falls, getting to him may be our best chance.
If that's true, he'll never expose himself.
Yes, he will. He'll come for me.
Hi everyone, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 3 trailer video, obviously the big battle of Winterfell. So we got to talk about the footage that's going on here, the plan that they made, who we think is going to survive, who we think is going to die, and what the big twists are going to be. Because I don't think any of us expect the battle to go down the way they think it will based on the planning session that they had and what Bran told them. Remember what Tyrion said during the episode? Sometimes clever people, the most clever people, overestimate their cleverness, and Bran thinks he's pretty clever right now. So if you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the Game of Thrones videos. There's a new round of that HBO Now giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on the video. So we'll start with the footage first and what the people are saying during the trailer, the obvious stuff. Then we'll talk about what we think is misleading, what's missing from the trailer. Then we'll talk about death predictions. So we start with a voiceover from Sansa saying the most heroic thing we can do now is look the truth in the face. She's probably referring to the fact that they're just looking their own deaths in the face, like we all might die tonight, because most of the characters are fair game to die. There are only a couple of people that I think are safe with plot armor and have to survive the last couple of episodes. But based on what Tormund told them when he arrived with the Brothers of the Night's Watch, the White Walkers are arriving just before dawn. It makes it sound like the battle will end by dawn, meaning most of this will take place in the dark, and it looks like the White Walkers create a winter storm to cloud their vision to make it much harder for them to coordinate their armies. Make all the jokes you want about cranking the brightness up on your screens. So much of my time after I finish making Game of Thrones videos is just going back into the edit and cranking the brightness way up so that everybody can just pick out what's going on in each of the frames because of the way they light stuff. They give you a bunch of different views of their combined armies standing in formation, starting with the Unsullied Legions, the trebuchets, the smaller catapults, the siege weapons in front, but you have the Dothraki Blood Riders standing in front of them. Then you have Jon Snow up on a hill face looking down on their forces at Winterfell from a nearby cliff. They're both dragon riders now because Jon has learned to ride Rhaegal, so maybe this is them just taking the dragons for a loop around the area to get a better look at things before the start of the battle. Samwell watching the Unsullied march by. We haven't seen a lot of Samwell footage from the other trailers in this big battle scene, so I'm assuming that he's just going to help the others inside the castle when the Whites eventually make it over the wall.
Samwell Tarly, slayer of White Walkers, lover of ladies. As if we needed any more signs the world was ending.
Arya and Sansa up on the walls, Davos elsewhere also on the walls walking past the Northern soldiers. Down in the crypts, it's Varys, Gilly, Little Sam, the little girl that gave Davos the Shireen Baratheon flashback. It's a little too blurry and dark in here to see which Stark tomb they're sitting next to, but we'll probably get a better look for it during the episode. But they're probably on the upper levels of the crypts. The underground structure has way more levels, goes way deeper, and is way larger than the actual above-ground Winterfell castle. I did a whole history video on the crypts of Winterfell a little while ago, but they go back to the time of Bran the Builder. The lower you go, the older the tombs are. I know there are a lot of people asking what's going on with this plan to put them in the crypts because it's all dead people. They're sitting around dead people. The Night King and the White Walkers raise things as whites. Well, here's the thing about that. I think there are a couple of practical reasons why the people in the crypts are mostly safe. Not completely safe, but mostly safe. The doors to the crypts are made of really thick ironwood, which is impervious to most kinds of fire, and it's almost as strong as steel. But also number two, I think the Gilly and Little Sam are safe, so I think that most of the people around here would be safe. Because if you turned one or two of these people, then the rest would be dead, because they really are fish in a barrel. So there'll probably be some moment where the Whites almost bang down the door before they're able to stop them above ground. They'll probably take it right to the edge, like the Whites almost get into the crypts, but they don't quite make it in. So I'm not expecting any really big danger for the people down here. There's a shot of Tyrion elsewhere outside on the walls, Ser Jorah up on the line in the thick of it on horseback with Heartsbane. Thank you very much, Samwell. Be sure to give that back when you're done with it, unless you die, then Samwell will have to go find it himself. Jon says the Night King is coming, but there's a shot of him on the ground with smoke all around him because of that winter storm that they create, so it's really hard to tell where he is during this shot. But it looks like he's seeing something he can barely believe. The expression on his face is one of shock and surprise. There's a much wider shot of their armies outside the gates of Winterfell. This is actually lit pretty well. There's the Dothraki Blood Riders up in the front, the siege weapons behind them, the Unsullied Legions, these people over on the bottom right here with the taller looking shields and some of the dragonglass pikes seem like they're the northern soldiers. I'm assuming the Knights of the Vale are standing off to one side here just off of frame. There's the same shot of Arya running through the upper levels of the castle, probably from some wights chasing her who have made it over the walls. She doesn't have her special weapon the Gendry made for her, so she may have lost it at this point. Maybe she still has that Valyrian dagger on her hip. There's another shot of the Unsullied Legions outside the castle as the winter winds blow all around them. This probably just means the Army of the Dead is much closer to them, and the winds that they're creating are just making it much harder and harder for them to see, getting thicker and thicker. That's actually a really creative use of their powers. Create a giant winter wind to obfuscate their vision, so it's much harder to coordinate, and it makes it way harder for the dragons in the air like Daenerys and Jon Snow to see what they're doing. There's the Hound with his new dragonglass axe, and Beric with his usual flaming sword inside the castle, looking like they're trying to hunt something down. They look like they're trying to be really careful, so something is clearly going on inside Winterfell during the battle. There's a shot of what seems like Daenerys on Drogon's back amidst this giant winter storm, just trying to survive through it. I saw a lot of questions about what's going on with this dragon in my feed, but if you look on its back, there's a little tiny figure with long white hair blowing all around in the wind, and they're hugging the dragon back as close as possible, like they're trying to hunch over to avoid this winter storm. So that's why I think that this dragon is Drogon and it's Daenerys on his back. I don't think that it's the Night King of Viserion, because Viserion is a much deeper shade of blue with piercing blue eyes, and the teeth coming out of his mouth look way more menacing than Drogon's teeth. They just designed him to look like a much more fearsome dragon now that he's a white than Drogon, even though Drogon is much bigger in size. The Unsullied Legions enter their battle posture. Then there's Theon in the Godswood with a flaming dragonglass arrow getting ready to protect Bran with the other Ironborn. Jon Snow pulling out Longclaw near a tree. This might be the Godswood too, but it's really hard to tell. I'm guessing that wherever he goes during the battle, he won't stray too far from Winterfell. Then Daenerys turns to Jon Snow and says the dead are already here, still pretty clearly pissed about what happened at the end of episode 2.
The Rhaegar fell on the Trident. She had a son. Robert would have murdered the baby if he ever found out, and Lyanna knew it.
But they leave the trailer off with Brienne shouting to Pod and the Knights of the Vale to stand their ground, as it seems like the legions of whites have already started making their run on Winterfell, like here they come right now. I know a lot of you are hoping for Ice Spiders big as hounds because we barely got a wide shot of the White Walkers marching their horses into frame, so we haven't got a full shot of the Army of the Dead yet, so you don't know what else they're going to surprise us with. But outside of the giants that the White Walkers have turned, and maybe a few other large animals, I'm not going to hold my breath for giant ice spiders, even though that would be really, really cool. There were a lot of people that were confused about this shot of the White Walkers marching into frame too, because a lot of people saw the curved ice blade in the middle here that the Night King uses, and they thought that this person might be him, but you notice that the Night King does not have a beard. The person with the curved blade here has a beard, so that is not the Night King, it's just another one of Gilly's presumable cousins. That's right, they're all fighting Gilly's family. That's who all these White Walkers are as far as we know. What is the big twist of the episode, though, is that we don't see the Night King anywhere in this trailer, but they're all convinced that he's coming. Bran made this huge plan to try and trap him or lure him out into the Godswood, using himself as bait. I think it's important to remember what Tyrion said to Jaime during the episode about all his failures in battle planning. I made a mistake common to clever people. I underestimated my opponent. So think about it this way. Maybe the Night King has been using Bran's abilities against him because Bran said that the Night King has been trying to kill all the three-eyed ravens going back thousands of years unsuccessfully. So the Night King is not dumb. All those three-eyed ravens had the advantage of unbroken magical seals protecting them. When he broke the seal by grabbing Bran and marking him, that's really what tipped it off, and we know that Bran is still kind of learning his abilities. He's much better than he was last season, but he still doesn't know everything. So in the way that clever people underestimate their opponents, I think that Bran is underestimating the Night King. Jon Snow made it sound like it would be the easiest thing in the world. We just kill the Night King and we take care of all of this stuff. Clearly, that is not going to be the case. The battle will not go down the way they think. So let me know in the comments, what do you think that the Night King is going to do to swerve on their plan to trap him during the episode? He could either not show up at all, or he could only show up for a couple minutes in the episode and then completely take off, leaving them confused. Wait a minute, where'd the Night King go? Well, we still have all these White Walkers and Whites to defeat. As far as death predictions go, though, this is a solid episode for them to shed a lot of their secondary characters and maybe a few main characters too. And don't forget, a few characters might come back as whites during the battle. There are only a couple though. I'm not expecting every single dead person to come back as a white, but I think it's actually better to say which characters we think are totally safe. So these are the characters that I think are wearing plot armor and have to survive to at least the last couple of episodes. You have Jon Snow, Daenerys, and at least one of the dragons, probably Drogon, is safe. Arya Stark, Samwell, Gilly, Little Sam, Tyrion, and the Little Bear. Like we saw Ghost during last week's episode, I think it's possible that they could kill Ghost during this episode. Nymeria is still alive, so if she and her super pack show up, 50-50 on whether or not she survives the battle. Pretty much anyone in the north that's not on my plot armor list is fair game to go, including Melisandre, because I think that they're going to almost lose the battle really, really badly, but I'm expecting some sort of Melisandre Knights of the Vale moment during the third act with the Red Priest or whoever it is that she went over to get support from. It's just assuming that it would be other Red Priests and maybe the Fiery Hand. She even prophesied her own death when she was talking to Varys before she went back to Volantis. It's like, don't worry, I'll be back because we have to die in this strange land. Let me know in the comments though, do you guys actually think that Melisandre will show up during the battle at some point? What'll happen too is I will do a Q&A video, but that'll probably post on Wednesday because I'm allowed to post my non-spoilery Avengers Endgame review Tuesday afternoon. So look out for that. We have both Avengers Endgame this week and the biggest battle in Game of Thrones history. So be sure to stay alive all week so that you get to see it all. It is going to be an amazing week. But congratulations to the last giveaway winner, Andy Arzuza. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your details.